I am awake.
Hello, my lords, my ladies, and everyone else. I am the wonderful Sheriff of Nottingham, and I have successfully arrested Friar Tuck on charges of thievery.
Arrested me? I was napping and I woke up in chains. What is this?
Whatever. I am here to instruct you on all things law, order, trials,
Sounds like none of
torture, and
those.
punishment.
Excuse me.
What?
I didn't do anything.
Well, if you didn't do anything, why are you in chains?
That doesn't make sense.
Anyway, so Mr. Friar Tuck here is going to stay in chains, and we're going to show you all the punishments that we use for theft.
I didn't do anything. I
Well-
don't know what this is about.
Since you seem so invested in your innocence, maybe you'd like to help me with this talk.
Fine. Okay.
So tell us, dear Friar Tuck, what are the charges of theft?
I don't know. I've never stolen anything. How would I know that?
Well, you're a monk, aren't you so learned?
Yeah, and food and napping. Okay, seriously. What if they're innocent? They, me?
What?
How do we not get in trouble for stuff we didn't do?
Don't be silly. That's not the scope of this lesson anyway. There's a lot of punishment to do, and outlaws are always guilty.
We'll see about that.
Well, since you seem so invested in this talk, why don't you help me teach these people about what it is about laws and punishment?
Well, I'm only a monk, but sure. During this time, there were all sorts of different crimes, ranging from petty, like theft, which I didn't do, to very serious crimes like treason. And unlike your age, when there's a police all around, there wasn't really any sort of police presence all the time. That's why punishments were super strict and proportional to the crime. And there were all sorts of different trials that people would have to go through in order to try and prove their innocence.
Well, innocence of a crime, but the crime is the thing. The crime dictates the punishment. So small crimes like theft and cheating would usually result in having a branding or a fine or be stuck in the stocks, which were like great big wooden things that trapped your hands and your feet in, so you would have to stand there in the middle of town being shamed. Or the pillory, which had your legs and your head squished into this thing that made you get thrown nasty fruit at by the villagers. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
The list?
The list were a whole bunch of crimes you could be guilty of. Most often, it was disturbing the peace. Now, that could be as much as you had a party that's too loud, or you drank too much and you and your friends were too loud in the city square. That could land you in the pillory. And the pillory really, I mean, you could be there for half an hour, or like half a day, or a whole day, and you were really at the mercy of the town and how they wanted to treat you.
Yeah, jeering and mocking was very common. Sometimes you'd have rotten fruit pelted at you. It's not a good way to spend the day.
No? Well, maybe not. Are you sorry yet?
I didn't do anything!
Well,
I didn't do anything. What about my trial? I get a trial.
okay.
I could have my trial at the manorial court, a trial by jury. This was a trial that happened several times a year with, this is the lowest court in England. Met several times a year, and every villager has to attend. If not, they face a fine.
Well, yes, I suppose. The trial also had a jury consisting of 12 men that were chosen by the villagers. Now, this jury was responsible for convicting the accused, but they were also responsible for metering out the punishment for the accused once he was found guilty. But what about another crime? Thievery was a really big deal because you had these huge spaces where houses would be really far away from each other and there was all this wood where it was really easy to hide and jump out and steal things. I mean, this kind of theft ranged from really, really minor to really, really serious.
There's a lot of public flogging. People would be taken and whipped in the town square. Controlling thievery was such a big issue for rulers because it was so hard to prevent, to catch, to report it, that this was one of the rulers' top priorities. And because of this and because of how important it was, there's such a wide variety of responses to the issues from ruler to ruler.
I have a plan. Let's try something. Hold out your hand.
What's going on?
And I'll put my money pouch in your hand.
Okay.
And we'll look it up in the Book of Punishments.
Look, what? What?
Ah! Ha! Thief! You stole it!
No, I didn't steal anything. Look, there's nothing in here. I didn't steal anything.
I don't believe you.
This is ridiculous. I demand a trial. Get me away from this quack.
Well, fine, I suppose. The King's Court dealt with much higher crimes, such as assault, murder, treason.
Crimes against the king.
Crimes against the king. The King's Court met several times a year with higher nobles deciding someone's fate, which could be hanging, beheading, or being forced to work in a prison doing hard labor for many, 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 many years. There was also the ordeals of water, fire, and trial by combat.
Right. Well, the ordeal by fire, someone would have a piece of red hot iron put in their hands, and they'd have to walk about 9 feet and put it down. And then their hands would be bandaged, or they'd have to walk about that far on a glowing red iron plowshare. And then their feet or hands, whichever one it was, would be wrapped up, and then they would have to come back to court 3 days later, and they would take the wrappings off. And if their hands or feet had started to heal, then they'd be innocent. But if they hadn't, then they'd be guilty. The thought was that God would intervene and start healing an innocent person so that there would be signs of healing and then they'd be proven innocent.
Is branding kind of like this one?
No, just like a piece of iron.
Like this one?
No, not like that one.
For branding, they would take this and put it in a hot fire and then
I don't think they did that.
press that to you
think
so
they did
someone
that.
would always know you're a thief. The ordeal by water came in 2 parts. Ordeal by cold water was when they tied your hands and your feet together and threw you in the water. If you floated, you were innocent, and then you could get taken out. If you were guilty, you drowned and you died. The ordeal by hot water was the accused individual would have to stick his hands in boiling water to pick out a rock at the bottom of the pot, bring it up, and then have his wounds checked 3 days later. If they were getting better and starting to heal, he was innocent. If not, he was guilty.
There's another one, right?
What one?
Ordeal by combat.
No.
Yeah. No, the ordeal by combat. That's when, if there were 2 people involved in a dispute, then the king might, or the court might appoint that they would have a fight, basically. And then whoever won was the innocent party. I think that's the one I'm going to choose.
No. there were many other forms of punishment, like torture.
Torture? Like listening to you drone on?
No, like the Iron Maiden. Now, this is some disputed by scholars, but most people agree that at one point in history, the Iron Maiden was used as a form of punishment. So they put you in a tiny little coffin box lined with nails. So when they shut the doors, you'd be covered in a bunch of tiny little wounds that would make you bleed everywhere, and it'd be really painful. Shall we try it?
Ah! Ah! No, back to my trial! Back to my trial!
But there's more. There's so much more.
More?
Yeah.
What, like the rack?
Yes, like the rack.
Oh, the rack? The rack was like a big rectangular frame with 2 rollers on either end, and people would be put their ankles attached to one end, and then their wrists attached to the other end, and then they turn these things and start stretching people out, and they feel pain in their elbows, their shoulders, their hips, their knees. It's just lots of pain.
Well, shall we try it?
Well, no, we don't have a rack.
Well, where's the rack?
Well, Little John borrowed it. To dry his clothes. He fell in the river.
Well, how about I grab your hands and stretch you out and drag you, tie your feet to a tree? Would that work?
Ooh, that kind of felt good. No, back to my trial by combat.
What?
I'm
No.
sure we got some weapons around here somewhere.
No.
Where are they?
Weapons?
Ah!
No!
It's good to be innocent.
Fine. Okay, well,
So you agree I'm innocent?
since you helped me with this talk, the last thing we should let them know, though,
Perfect.
the last thing we should let them know are some of the silly laws that we have here in Nottingham. Right
Yes.
here in this rule book.
Since I did help you,
Since you did help me.
I did agree to help.
You did agree to help.
Yes.
So right here in this medieval laws,
Yes.
can just read them
here's
aloud?
one you guys will love. Soccer. Soccer was banned in 1318. Back then, it wasn't really a game as much as a no-holds-barred combat sport. And when it took place in urban centers, havoc broke out. Things were destroyed. Some people even died.
you couldn't steal a dead whale. So whales that washed up on the shore were automatically the property of the king and the queen, who were the only ones that got to eat it. You couldn't take any.
Yeah, I heard that's delicious.
Ew.
Oh yes, don't forget, you had to wash your sheep.
You had to wash your lord's sheep, too.
Yes, you could get in big trouble if your lord's sheep wasn't washed.
Talk about doing the laundry before you even had clothes. If you were poor, lower classes weren't allowed to play tennis. You could only play tennis in the Lord's manor around special occasions like Christmas time.
That's right. Tennis isn't worth it. Bakers, take note. If you ever sold bread that was under the specified weight, you could get in serious trouble. Selling underweight bread was a massive problem. Some people believe that this is where the term a baker's dozen came from, because if you'd ordered a dozen loaves of bread, chances are you'd get 13 just to make sure it wasn't underweight.
You weren't allowed to eat more than 2 courses either. Laws
Mon Dieu!
restricted what people could eat and not. It was only around special occasions where lower classes were allowed to eat more than 2 courses, such as Christmas time,
Where you were allowed 3.
where you were allowed 3 courses. So that, my friends, is all that we have here. Thank you for joining us for our law and disorder.
Order. Can you think of any silly laws around where you live? I'm sure your dad can.
That's a terrible joke.
say, all these people seem really short.
They do. Isn't there a law about how short you have to be to walk around in Nottingham?
Yeah, this tall to work in the fields. You think we should put them in the rack, stretch them out?
Oh, then they could work in the field.
Then they could work in the
field.
field.
Oh, yes. Let's put them on the rack. But then they might want to do all the fun things too.
What, in the field?
Maybe we should put them in the Iron Maiden. Poke a bunch of little holes in them.
Can't hurt. Oh, well. Yeah, it would hurt.
Let's go. Oh, yeah, it would hurt.